Well, back for another episode. This time I have quite a bit to show. Of course, you're looking at the rear end of the frame, and I've got the control arms mounted for the linking system, trailing arm. Man, I couldn't even think of it. On this side, I have the wheels mocked up on it, so you can see more or less the finished product. There's still a lot more to go. And in here, you can see the one set of bearing blocks that I used and how they're going to be welded right to, well, the mounting point will be welded to that 6-inch piece of pipe. I'm just traveling along here so you can see how they all come together. And on this side, I'm going to show you the arrangement for the independent rear suspension, at least as far as how it'll be linked. The let's see if we can get a better picture. Yeah. Now the two universal joints are actually way too close together, but I have to cut those axles off and then fit them properly. So that's that'll be down the road a little bit. In fact, probably the next thing I do is mount the center section to the frame. Since we're looking at a whole bunch of things like strings and levels and stuff like that, I want to point out that this is all that these are the things I needed to be able to mount this trailing arm system up so that it was all aligned right. This string right here is the center line of the actual vehicle. This level here is actually not a level, it's just a straight edge for me to measure from the top of the frame. Let's see, from the top of the frame down to any point that I needed. The plumb bobs, those were to get me the proper distance for the center line of the axles. And let's see, and just to show you some of the little tricks I used, here's a string. It doesn't mean anything, but this is one of the ways I would set them up. These are extremely strong magnets, and so I just pinch the string underneath of them, and it gives me a line for where I'm, for when I'm checking things. I used them in this case mostly to connect the two ends. So I had this tacked in place, and I had this piece that's underneath here tacked in place. So this piece of tube in here, I needed to figure out the right angle for it. And I also used the string to figure out how much of an angle so that I aim these properly at each other. Now on this side, I just threw some stuff on here to give you an idea of what is underneath of the wheels. This actually goes in the back here, and that's your caliper. Let me see if I can get far enough back. Let me try a different. All right. So this is the caliper, which will mount on the back here. This is the disc brake, and it's mounted to the stub axle, we'll call it. And that, although it's semi-complete, the end here, this end here has to be fitted properly, and it'll be shortened probably by about 2 to 3 inches. Now over here, the axle housing, which now is hardly able to be seen, is welded to the two control arms. This piece here is where you're going to bolt your caliper to, and it bolts through these holes, which will also have a plate that keeps the bearing from coming out. Also, there may be a bumper put in here, so in case the suspension actually gets pushed down, that it'll be able to support it rather than the shock bottoming out. And you say, well, how are you going to spring load this thing? Well, there's going to be a rocker shaft somewhere, and it'll probably be down in here. But this rocker shaft will work like this. My thumb is the connecting point to the shock. The shock is going to mount in like this. And if everything goes right, let me move this. If everything goes right, there's going to be a hole cut in the piece of pipe, and this will actually stick out the back of the pipe, and that's how you'll attach it. It looks like that's going to be the way it does happen. I'm hoping it does, just for looks, really. It doesn't matter as far as other things. The one advantage to mounting the shock like this is the arm that takes and actually supports the suspension, supports the trailing arm, can be adjusted without changing my spring load on my shock. So there's a nice advantage there for setting the ride height and all of the vehicle. So I guess that's about it. The next step is tear things down, and well, maybe mount the rear first, but then I have to tear it down and finish all the welding. As you can see right there, I got a weld that's only tacked, that's all. So there's a lot of that going on, and once I get it tore down, I'll take and finish all that up. So that's another episode. See you.